Welcome to Mr. Giant Reacts and Ting and Ting and Ting. Today we're going to be watching some history about Romania. And I've heard about this gentleman several times from people in the comment section. This is Michael the Brave, Romania's greatest hero. So that's what we're going to be reacting to. We're going to get into some history, all you understand? We're going to learn a little bit more about Romania's past, at least Michael. I'm excited about it to see what it's all about because, hey, I'm a history buff, especially Romania. So stick around. Let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer and see what we could learn about Michael the Brave.
Though little known to the outside world, Michael the Brave is perhaps the most revered of Romanian historical figures. At the beginning of the 17th century, he united three states, Wallachia, Transylvania, and Moldavia, setting the template for what was to become Romania. In standing up to the Ottoman Empire, he proved to be the charismatic, bold, and fearless leader that the Wallachians desperately longed for. Yet his lust for conquest was his downfall, and in the end, it was not the hated Turks, but his fellow Christians who put him in the grave. Wallachia is a historical and geographical region of Romania. It is situated north of the lower Danube and south of the southern Carpathians. In the 14th century, it was under constant threat from the Ottoman Empire. The Turkish Sultan forced the Wallachians to pay tribute, and then, in 1462, the Ottomans annexed Wallachia, making it an eyalet, or administrative division of the empire. The Wallachians were subjugated and humiliated. They longed for a strong leader to rise up in opposition to the Ottomans. In 1526, the Ottomans subjugated the Hungarian army at the Battle of Mohacs. They then annexed 2/3 of the country. The remainder became part of the Austria-Hungary dynasty. In 1592, the Habsburg Emperor Rudolf II declared war on the Ottomans. 35 years earlier, Michael Petrescu had been born. He is thought to have been the illegitimate son of a Wallachian prince known as Petrescu the Good, who was one of the Draculesti branch of the House of Basara. His mother, Theodora Cantacuzene, came from a Wallachian noble family. Not long after the outbreak of the war with the Habsburgs, Ottoman Sultan Murad placed the 35-year-old Michael Petrescu on the throne of Wallachia. Michael was now the vassal of the Sultan, ruling over an ethnically diverse area that stretched from the Transylvania Alps to the lower Danube. In his subservient role to the Ottomans, Michael was expected to support them in their war against the Habsburgs and to pay an annual tribute. Yet Michael found himself in a politically fraught situation. He desired good relations with both the Ottomans and the Habsburgs, but he knew that being subservient to one would make him the enemy of the other. Shortly after his accession to power in 1593, he made the fateful decision to throw his lot in with the Habsburgs against the Ottomans. In 1590,
And there's something I've noticed about Romania's history. They seem to be always caught in the middle of something where they have to make a decision at some point to pick one side or the other in order to survive. It seems like there's a history of that there, but then there's been so many comings and goings in that region there. That's understandable that they always seem to be caught in the middle and having to decide what to do for their own betterment. And that's crazy. And though not all, because as far as reading the comment section, not all of Romania was conquered. The surroundings always seem to harvest a threat of being attacked by outsiders coming in constantly. It's just like it seems like it was constant throughout history.
94, Michael joined himself to a Christian alliance of European powers in opposition to the Ottoman Empire. Later that year, he led a military campaign against the Turks. In January of 1595, his army crossed the Danube River and invaded Ottoman-occupied Bulgaria. They quickly took possession of a string of Ottoman strongholds along the Danube. This threatened the Ottoman supply line along the lower Danube, causing great consternation in Constantinople, the Ottoman capital. While Michael was away campaigning, a powerful prince of Transylvania by the name of Sigismund Bathory made a play for power in Transylvania and Moldavia. He arranged for the military leader, or voivode, of Moldavia, Aaron, to be imprisoned and poisoned in order to install one of his own officials in his place. Bathory had acted with the consent of the Habsburg Emperor, Rudolf II. Feeling emboldened, he then summoned Michael to his presence. However, Michael was busy campaigning, so he sent a delegation of Wallachia aristocrats to act on his behalf. These men signed an agreement by which Michael would become the vassal of Sigismund Bathory. Meanwhile, the Ottomans were preparing for a reprisal strike against Wallachia. The attack came in the summer of 1595, when Turkish general Sinan Pasha invaded with 115,000 troops. To face them, Michael could muster no more than 22,000 men. These were made up of Wallachian, Cossack, and Zekli troops. Michael deployed his men in a defensive line behind the Nyazlov River, south of the village of Quagarani. When the Turkish forces attempted to cross the river on August 25th, the defenders surged forward, pushing them back. The Ottomans managed to secure a foothold on the northern side of the river. Sinan Pasha then attempted to surround Michael's army in a double envelopment and then squeeze the life out of them. Michael, however, was one step ahead of him. He sent his Cossack cavalry on a wide flanking move to attack the enemy from the rear. At the same time, he boldly led the remainder of his forces in a direct assault on the Ottoman centre. Swinging his double-bladed axe, Michael hurled his vastly outnumbered army upon the Turks. Pasha's forces were caught completely off guard and were thrown back in disarray. The Wallachians killed many of them before they could get back across the river. In the process of driving the Turks back, Michael managed to seize 15 large guns and to take possession of the symbolically important Ottoman battle standard. It was an impressive victory, but Michael knew that his small army would not be able to hold out against the vastly superior Ottoman numbers for long. He withdrew his army north across the Wallachian plains and into the Transylvania Alps, where he knew the Turks would not be able to follow. Meanwhile, Sinan Pasha occupied Targovist and Bucharest. Michael now requested troop reinforcements from Bathory. Over the next 2 months, some 18,000 new recruits joined his army to give him a total force close to 40,000. On October the 18th, he led these men out of the Alps in an assault on the Turkish-occupied city of Targovist. The Ottoman occupiers there were overwhelmed and the city was liberated. Sinan Pasha decided to withdraw towards the Danube, rather than attack the Wallachian army and threaten his supply line. But Michael took the initiative once again. On October the 27th, he attacked Pasha's army at Giurgiu as the Turks were precariously crossing the Danube on a bridge made of boats. Caught off his guard once again, the Ottoman army had to fight a rearguard action. In the end, Pasha was forced to sacrifice his rearguard in order to save the main force of his army. It was another stunning victory for the vastly outnumbered Wallachian army of Michael the Brave. With the Ottomans now temporarily subjugated, Michael now turned to the situation at home. Chafing under the dominion of Bathory, he made plans to unseat him and conquer Transylvania. On June the 9th, 1598, Michael signed an agreement with Emperor Rudolf II, whereby he would become Rudolf's vassal. In return, Rudolf would supply him with 5,000 men to continue his war against the Ottomans and would give him permission to unseat Bathory. With a
It's crazy how you have to be vassal to this person, vassal to that person. Not only was he a warrior, he was a politician to a certain degree, a diplomat. He had to be diplomatic to figure out who we could trust, and you know what I mean. In these days, people just go in and they do stuff, you know. Then you have to like actually sit down and be strategic about stuff, you know. You just go, I am mighty, I have got this, and I could just go out there and do what I want. You have to maneuver, have diplomacy, and that's another thing too. It seems like, look, back then leaders will be out there on the front lines, you know, leading the charge and stuff, you know. And I understand, you know, to a certain degree why it isn't like that anymore. They just stay at home and then send people off to go fight and stuff like that, because you know, if you lose the leader, you could probably lose the whole campaign, you know. But still, you know, the bravery and stuff.
24,000-strong army, Michael now invaded Transylvania. When he rode into the foothills of the eastern Carpathian Mountains, he entered the homeland of the Zacheles, many of whom had previously fought alongside him. He explained that he had been appointed by Emperor Rudolf to govern their land on his behalf, and would treat them with kindness and dignity. As a result, his ranks were swollen by an additional 12,000 Zacheli men. On October the 18th, 1598, Michael's army clashed with the Transylvania forces of General Gaspar Cornis. With overwhelming force and momentum, the Transylvania army was crushed. The Wallachia army then rode on to occupy the city of Alba Iulia. Shortly after there, Michael received a party of men from Zacheli, who presented him with a grisly trophy. Out of a bag, they produced the head of Andrew Bathory, the brother of Sigismund, who had taken rulership of Transylvania. The conquest was now complete. In April of 1600, Michael invaded Moldavia. He divided his forces into several smaller armies that would invade from different directions and converge on the capital of Chisinau. The voivode of Moldavia, Jeremiah Movila, who was vassal of Poland, fled to a Polish-led garrison on the Dniester River on Moldavia's eastern border. Michael was unable to overpower the fortress, but that did not stop him from conquering the land. Michael was now ruler over 3 states, Wallachia, Transylvania, and Moldavia. This made him extremely powerful, which in turn made Emperor Rudolf extremely nervous. In September of 1600, Rudolf sent a Habsburg mercenary army under the command of General George Basta to take possession of Transylvania. Battle was joined on September the 18th. This time, Michael had met his strategic match on the battlefield. After a furious encounter, Basta feigned a retreat and then counterattacked. It was enough to overwhelm the Wallachian army. Michael withdrew south to Wallachia, and Basta put Sigismund Bathory back as voivode of Transylvania. The walls were now closing in on Michael. On the heels of his defeat in Transylvania, a Polish-Lithuanian combined army marched into Moldavia to restore Moldavia as a vassal of Poland. This international force was too strong for Michael's army, and the Wallachians were ousted from a second state. The Polish army chased Michael down, pursuing him and the remnant of his army back to Wallachia. Michael's forces were defeated in 3 successive encounters. The army was dispersed, with Michael fleeing to Prague. There he appealed to Rudolf to supply him with an army to retake Wallachia. By now, the political climate had changed, with Bathory having become a vassal to the Turks. Rudolf desired to remove this threat by unseating Bathory, and so he ordered General Basta, who had previously pushed Michael out of Transylvania, to join forces with him in retaking it. On August 3, 1601, this mainly Habsburg force defeated Bathory's army. Emperor Rudolf had envisaged Michael and Basta ruling Transylvania as co-governors. Basta, however, had other ideas. He hated Michael and had no intention of sharing rulership with him. On August 9, 1601, Basta called Michael to a meeting at his military camp near Campia Turzi. Basta, though, was laying a trap. Sometime during the evening, members of his entourage slipped in and murdered Michael. Yet, in the act of killing Michael, Basta had transformed him into a legend and a martyr. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe.
Wow, it's crazy, you know. He fought all these armies of people that was trying to come into there and take over, and it seems to be foiled by his own people because of politics, you know. Not so, you know. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what I'm seeing here. But his whole career of being a leader is embroiled in constant battles and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Just to get the independence for the people. That's crazy. That region, they just seem to have such back and forth fighting. That's a lot of history. No wonder why, to a certain extent, there's so much confusion, you can may say, or telling of the history that's being how should I put it challenged and stuff like that, because there's just so much going on. It's just a lot of back and forth going on. Wow. I hope you guys learned something from this. I did learn something from this as I go along. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. You learned about it in school, being Romanian. Hit it up in the comment section. Tell me what you were taught in high school and in college about that side of the history. Please drop a like on the video, share the video. Let me thank those who send me super thanks through the super thanks on YouTube and also through my Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal in the description of the video. Thank you very much. Thank you all for all the comments and suggestions for things for me to react to and to learn more about you. In the meantime, y'all take care of each other. Let's try to bring some peace in this world.